The débat, the honourable member for Elgin-Middlesex-London.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you. And I am honoured to speak tonight on the motion 43 put forward by my colleague here, instructing the Finance Committee to study and report on the means of creating enforceable duty of care. Now, I feel that when I come to this chamber, I come with years of experience of working with constituents who have dealt with Canada Revenue Agency issues. And to that is what I would like to speak of this evening, and just share with you some of the constituents' issues and some of the settlements that we have gone through in the past. I know that the previous speakers that have spoken in the first hour of this debate have discussed this motion, including files such as Irv LaRue and constituents from their own riding. And so this evening, I would like to share with you some of the situations that occurred in my years as a constituency assistant over the last 11. So, you know, when we're working as constituency assistants, we work with so many different people. Many people come in with issues, whether it's their passport, whether it's Service Canada and not receiving their old age security. But one of the biggest files that we worked on in Elgin-Middlesex-London was to do with Revenue Canada. And what I find is it's very difficult for some people when they're dealing with the Revenue Canada agency. And you know that the motion that our colleague has put forward, I believe it's very important to understand that there is a service of care and a duty of care that is necessary for the constituents. You know, as a constituency assistant and through the Members of Parliament's offices, we have worked many times on a variety of reviews, whether it's reviews of business taxes, whether it's reviews of marital status, child tax benefits, or just your regular income tax returns where they can go up to 10 years and look into your individual files. But I wanted to share with you a couple of particular cases that I had, and one started with a good friend of mine who is a chartered accountant. First of all, this gentleman's name is Bill Graham, and he has the biggest heart of gold. And when one of his clients, who was a retired farmer, came to him with $1 million debt owed to Revenue Canada, he decided to do it pro bono, and within a few months asked me if I would join his team to see if we could get any movement on the Canada Revenue file. This gentleman, who was aging, had a wife who had just had gone through the last 2 years and had become blind. Their son and a nephew had also passed away, and he himself had had many failing health issues. And due to some arbitrary audits that were done on his farm, they found that he owned $1 million. Now, I recognize that a lot of times when arbitrary audits do happen to the two people through Canada Revenue Agency, a lot of times it's because they themselves had not done some information or had not put forward some of the requests, whether it was putting forward a tax return that was necessary, such as a T2, or whether it's the corporate income tax, or whether it was just their personal income taxes. He himself was not able and capable to do so at the time, so an arbitrary assessment had occurred of him. Now, this is a gentleman who, right now, if we're talking about his income, we'd probably be looking at a man who brings in $25,000 to $30,000 a year. It, at one time, was a very successful farm, and that was back in the 80s and 90s. But unfortunately, the situation had changed for him, and because of his deteriorating health and that of his wife, he no longer ran a very lucrative farm. So after this, he had gone to Bill Graham, as I said, and this arbitrary assessment was done where he owed over $1 million. Unfortunately, he himself had tried many, many times to speak to them, show them the information, show medical notes and a variety of different things, and none of that stuff appealed to them to change their decision. Unfortunately, that's when our office had to get involved, and that was when I was working for Member of Parliament Joe Preston. And I sent in all of the information, as well as referring back to the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. Now, I realize the Taxpayer Bill of Rights is truly that. It's sort of like the 10 Commandments. It's something that you should live by, but it seems not to be as enforceable as necessary. So that's why when we have a motion like Motion 43 come through, I would fully support that, because we saw in a situation like this, a man who already had deteriorating health was told that he was going to owe $1 million. They were putting a lien on his farm. They were then taking all of his old age security that he was going to receive, and they started taking that and withholding that. So any government funds that was being sent to him were then being held back as well. So we took a family that was going through a horrible time in the first place, and the Government of Canada, or through the Canada Revenue Agency, actually just made it worse for this poor gentleman and his family. I am very proud to say that after a number of months' work and many, many phone calls, and that all the documentation that we sent in, the direction of this file did turn around, and he fortunately did receive the audit back where he owed about $10,000 in taxes, not $1 million. But can you only imagine when a person is going through the worst time of their life, receiving a bill in the mail for over $1 million in back taxes? And those are the sort of things that I think this motion is really necessary, and it's necessary to recognize some of these other things. As I was discussing earlier, I spoke to my assistant in St. Thomas. Her name is Kelly. And like I said, we have a very, very busy constituency office. And we were told that we are one of the busiest in the southwestern Ontario area. So we have a defined person that just deals with our Revenue Canada cases. We deal with about 50 new cases per day, and it's just not a changing of addresses. A lot of times it's dealing with marital status reviews and a variety of things. But I said to Kaylee, I need to know what's happened this week. Well, it's really unfortunate when my assistant can pull from her memory bank something that just happened yesterday kind of idea, because it's that common that we're finding these issues. So I wanted to share with you an email that Kelly sent me today when I said, please just share with me one simple situation. So she shared with me, a constituent came into the office and had to provide proof of her marital status. Her husband was living in the United States. So she had to provide proof that the children were living with her and their marital status was single. She provided all necessary documentation and received back payment for the months of child tax benefit that she had missed. 2 months later, she came into the office with a letter from Canada Revenue Agency indicating that she had been selected for a random review to provide proof that she was the primary caregiver for the children once again. But CRA would not accept the documentation that they had received previously. So we have a situation here where it's a single mother who is going through a review, which is very, very common. And you know, it is important to have these reviews. When it comes to fraud, there is fraud that happens in the Canada Revenue Agency. But we're looking at one simple case where she had already proven that she had the primary care for her children. The next thing that we know is this random review comes on, because the random reviews do occur where they're just doing an arbitrary review of somebody. And at that time, once again, you need to submit all documentation proving that she was primary caregiver, that her children were in school, and a variety of things. And at that time, her child tax benefits and any benefits that came from the Canada Revenue Agency, such as the Ontario Trillium benefit and the GST benefit for families, all ceased. So this woman was advised that she could not provide the same information that she had provided 2 months previous, which it makes extremely difficult for families. Luckily, with a successful staff that I have and a very good staff that knows you have to go after everything, they are working on this. But only imagine if you're in a community where you don't know to go to your member of parliament, where you are sitting there and you have other troubles. Unfortunately, we have many people that will walk into our office with a brown envelope. You see that it's from the Canada Revenue Agency, and due to the issues that have happened to them in their past, they bring their unopened mail to us all the time. This is unfortunately not uncommon. We have many people that will show up and say, I'm scared to open this letter. And you know, I have dealt with many cases where we see families for months and months and months who have been cut off their child tax benefit, who owe huge amounts and enormous amounts because of past debts. And a lot of times it might just be something as simple as a T-slip that was duplicated and the Canada Revenue Agency thought they received more money than they actually did. Sometimes it's proving that someone had stolen, someone had stolen their social insurance number. That too has happened. We have a case of fraud, which I understand. When we're dealing with these things, it's very, very important that we recognize that fraud occurs. But in this motion, what this member has asked is that there is a duty of care, and that we recognize the simple term, which I would call customer service of the Government of Canada, needs to be used in situations like this. We are, in some cases, removing food from people's table, making so that they can't pay rent, and a variety of different things. And it's because there's either been an error done by the agent or an audit that was not looking at all the correct information. I fully support this motion, and I hope that everyone in this room and in this chamber will also support this motion, because I think it is a right step forward for Canadians, and we must continue to protect Canadians and do what is best for them. I thank you very much for your time, and I really look forward to the questions. Thank you.